Welcome to the Curious Conversation Collaborative, a community for purpose-seeking entrepreneurs, leaders, and changemakers.
Listen to inspiring conversations with your hosts, inner leadership mentor Tessa Van Keken and business wealth coach Karen Ravel. Hello. How are you?
Hi, Karen. Tessa? I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good, and I hope our listeners enjoyed last week's Curious Conversation, which is this theme we're talking about getting support. And last time around we talked about the pros and cons of trying to do it all alone. And that's leading us on this week to talk about collaboration and working together. So I thought I'd start this off by just talking about, or picking up on what we talked about last time, which was about making sure that you have some sort of support network around you so that you don't feel completely isolated and that you do feel like you're working in a team, even if you're not, so that you don't feel that isolation and that being alone or being completely hard work. I don't know what your perspectives are on that, Tessa.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. And for me, I think, there's that element of like having started my own business. And in the beginning, just really that deep dive into like setting everything up and finding my feet. And, although I actually did get some support, but at the same time, like for the business part, it was like really, I felt like, I was setting it up. This was my baby, my project, and no one else needed to come near. But then I noticed really around, as you said, that there's that element of isolation. And for me, if I compared it to working in an organization, it's not so much the actual team, and that might be when you're starting to grow bigger even, I think, but then to me it would be nearly more like also the delegation element and outsourcing, that we'll talk about that next week. But for me it was more this real working together, to actually have someone else being with you on a project. And I found that very scary because there's also that element of I wanted to be my thing, my project. And I think a really interesting way of working was that there's different ways. Like there is now certain projects that are really mine that someone else is working with me on. And then there's projects like our own one, like this one, the collaborative, conscious conversations, curious conversations collaborative. That really, grew from us together. That didn't exist with you or me, but really is a product of us together. So I think for me, it really shows these different ways of working together as well, and the importance of that. And but also the fun element of that. This we're doing, I could not do on my own.
Yeah.
Right. And it would never have looked this way if I had thought it out all by myself and then told you this is what I'm doing and you can be on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really a product, I really believe with this working together in this when you're doing a collaborative with someone, the outcome, the product really is more than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely. Because I think you get different perspectives, and different inputs, and it's things that we have these conversations and then something will come out that perhaps neither of us was expecting, but it will just come out of that conversation. So that's good. And I think this is where the benefit of creating joint ventures, if you're working for yourself, creating that some possibility like we're doing, but also maybe just from a marketing point of view to reach out to your audience, but also like masterminds, for instance. I mean, we're both part of a mastermind, and it's getting that someone else reflecting back to you sometimes when you're having a challenge and that you're trying to think it through, but you need someone to reflect back what you're saying or thinking, and then come up with their own perspective that just then again sparks something in you. So it kind of creates a bit of a chain reaction for you. So I think, all these sorts of collaborations are worthwhile, because exactly what you said, that it creates something that wasn't there just on its own. It is bigger than you.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of inspiration and sudden quantum leaps can happen in business.
Yeah. And so from hearing you talk again and also thinking about this, I really, really recognized for myself that to truly collaborate, there was a few elements that were really important. First of all, I only could do this when I was at a stage where I felt really secure and comfortable with what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think before that, it would be more support element. You know what? When I didn't know, then it was more like getting some feedback from people. So there's still an element of working together in that, but it's more like this where you're working together, as you said, like could be even a mastermind or another support group where you exchange ideas and get some accountability, have people listen to what you're doing and taking on the feedback and letting that support you in growing your thing, whether that's again your own business or your new leadership role or whatever it is. But I think this real true collaborative, you need to be comfortable with what you're doing, but you need to be also open to let go a little bit and change.
Yeah.
Right? Because sorry, just to say like that, if you hold on too tight, then there is no room for the other person to join as well. So then, and we'll talk about that more next week, you go more into an outsourcing or delegating, which is fine too, but it's a different form of support or working together. Whereas for a true collaborative, you need to be open to also let go a little bit of how you thought it would end up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think you're right, that it's really important that you do own your own voice and your own perspectives. So that you do come at it as equals, and because otherwise you can, I think, lose yourself in the process if one person's more dominant, or you can lose ownership of what it was that you were doing, your project or your business, not in your business, not literally or from a legal point of view, but just from like, are you going off on a tangent that wasn't actually the direction that you were, originally planned for your business? So
and I think you can really feel a sense of loss when that happens, right? When you're when something like it kind of feels like it's running away with you, if you like, or so, and I think what you mentioned there, like when someone else can be more dominant, or when it's just that you're not clear enough on what you want, because I think that can be part of it too, right? If you don't really know, then it's very hard to actually say what you would like it to be. So I think when you're in a project where that, because this can always happen, I think, we have had our moments where we really have to sit down and first for ourselves think, actually, how do I want these conversations to look like, and then be really open with each other. And I think this is why when you're working with someone, trust is incredibly important. Like I know that you and we can say what we really feel these conversations should be about, and we're really open to hear that from each other, and we're open to really then see how we can incorporate that we both feel really happy with these conversations. And at the same time, if I did a similar project with someone else, the conversations might actually look different. Not because I'm not getting out of these what I want, but because everyone is different.
Absolutely.
So I think, and that's so important to be that firm and flexible, because otherwise it would be my conversation, in this case with you and in another case with someone else. But the conversations that we do are the way they are because they're ours.
Yes.
And therefore, if I did the same project with someone else, it would be still slightly different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'd just like to finally add that if you're working with someone else, whether it's one person or whether you are trying to create that sort of team environment for yourself, and I'd really like to emphasize that when I talk about team, especially if you're working for yourself, it doesn't mean you have to employ people. It's just like that collaboration or that support network. But it's also about being mindful of your personalities and your expertise and your zone of genius, like what you bring, because different people bring different things. And Tessa, I work with wealth dynamics a lot, and people's different energies and talent frequencies, and understanding that is a really good way of knowing how to deal with different people, and who can support you best, where you're the most weakest, where you need that most support. But we can talk about that a lot more in the next episode, like you say, when we're talking about outsourcing, delegation, and people can really step into their own leadership.
Yeah, but I think you're totally right. It's very important for the working together as well, because we have a tendency of, like, when we maybe are at a networking event or in our own organization, like, and even if you're managing a team, you might gravitate to work with the people that you like best. And although it's important, I think, you have to have some fun when working with people. So you have to have some connection and some, there has to be some liking going on. But if you're working with people that you like, but are also very similar to you, then there might be far less room for growth than when you choose someone where both of you can be complementing each other as well. So I think it's important to, when you're working with people, particularly professionally, whether that's for your own business or in a project or as a leader, that it's also important to actually work with people that are not exactly on the same thing as you, but they're a little bit different too, so that you can help each other grow and therefore grow what you're offering.
Absolutely. Okay, so next week we'll be talking more about like I say, the outsourcing and delegation, and how you can actually incorporate getting support, real support for your business or your leadership. We'll talk again next week. So
yeah, that would be great. And in the meantime, I do think it would be great to hear from people if you have any experiences, both positive and negative, from working with other people and projects you have been doing, or how that was for you, and was it difficult, and what did you what came up for you, like, as I said, both for positive and negative. It would be great to hear from you.
Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? Do share your thoughts and questions in the comments, or send us a message.
Do you know someone else who'd be interested in our curious conversations? Please share and spread the word. You can find out more about us at KarenRavel.com
and TessaVanKeken.com. Tune in next week for another curious conversation.